Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is What If Naruto Got Harem with Hinata Tsunade and Anko Part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this and comment for next part. And now let's start the fanfic. The sun rose over the village. The five faces on the Hokage tower beam under the amazing bright rays provided by the potent sun. These aforementioned beams also affect the face of a blissfully sleeping teen that promptly rolls over. He grumbles as the alarm clock goes off and with AF of his hand, the alarm clock is sent flying into the wall before it breaks. I'll fix that another time, foolish alarm. The teen mumbled. The boy is about to drift off yet again to a land unknown, before small yips grow in range and volume before coming to his ear as a very warm tongue appears in his face. Knock it off Kyoshi, mumbles Jonin Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto, all-around savior of the shinobi nation. The fox, with red fur and two tails does not and continues to away at the sleeping teen. Naruto sighs before getting up and laying his back on his bedpost. As he awakes, his sight leads him to looking around his huge bedroom. His bed was king size with silk white covers and too many pillows to count. Window to his right was covered with navy blue drapes, and a door that led to a balcony if you would move the drapes. To his left was a huge walk-in closet with the door open, many different Jonin outfits and different colored flak jackets visible. A pile of shoes and boots lay out upon the floor. His black tiles were filled with dirt and other things from his constant moving through the day. Next to the closet was a huge chest drawer with 4 drawers in a nice hunter green. One drawer is open and a neatly folded stack of white t-shirts are visible. The door to his room was 3 paces from the drawer. On the right of the door was a wall filled with many weapons. Kunai, 3-pronged kunai, ninjutsu, daggers, shuriken, an anbu mask, anbu armor, a cloak with blood and flames at the bottom, and a huge clan painting of a whirlpool on the ceiling in dedication to his mother and the Uzumaki clan of Whirlpool. In the corner between the weapons and window is a mannequin dressed in Hokage robes with a Jonin outfit under it and the hat. All in all, his room was pretty nice. Naruto stretched before picking up the medium-sized fox in his arms and walked out the door. As he turns left and passes 4 doors on his left and staircases leading downstairs to his right, he opens up the door directly in front of him into his bathroom. Black and gray marble was everywhere within this room which consisted of the tub, the sink, and the floor. He placed the fox to the floor and began his morning routine. Brush teeth, shower, fix up his golden hair that reminded many people of his father from back in the day, and then head on out for the day. Discover more. Books. Literary magazine subscription. Digital book downloads. Author interviews. Fanfiction merchandise. TV show guides, writing software, novel writing workshops, screenwriting software, privacy policy templates. Dressed up in standard Konoha uniform and putting his hitai on forehead before grabbing his pouches and equipment, he specifically puts on 2 pouches on both thighs and picks up 2 cruel-looking daggers before spinning them and putting them in 2 side holsters on the outsides of his thighs. As he heads downstairs he stops halfway as he remembered something rather important. It's my day off. Naruto sighed before going back upstairs and disrobing. He returns everything neatly, a habit beaten into him by Tsunade, before putting on a skin-tight navy blue shirt and white pants with a black jacket halfway zipped up and matching crystal clean white ninja sandals. He ties his hitai around his neck and yips to the fox, which swiftly jumps onto him and wraps his body around his neck. Let's enjoy this day no Kyoshi, said Naruto as he steps outside, his fox companion yipping in agreement. 2 minutes later, Konoha Shopping District. Ino Yamanaka was bored. Plain bored. There was nothing to do today. No missions, her parents gave her the day off. Half of the ninja she knew or wanted to hang out with were currently on missions, the only kunoichi she could think of to relax with was busy, and then that was not mentioning her roommate Sakura, who was working endless shifts in the hospital. I hate days like this, mumbled Ino. That makes 2 of us, said a deep voice. Ino whipped around as only one person had such a distinctive voice. Ah, Naruto, said Ino as she smiled at the said person who was walking up towards her. She had to look away swiftly to hide her blush. Who knew that Naruto would fill out like this? Discover more. Books. Comic book subscriptions. World-building guides. Mobile app development. Fan fiction books. TV show box sets. Privacy policy templates. Author interviews. Digital art tablets. Crossover story prompts. Dare she say it? After saving Konoha during the pain attack a few years ago, she began to see Naruto in a different light. She just never got the chance to hang out with him. Discover more. Books. Anime merchandise. Play script downloads. Book club subscription. World-building guides. Fan fiction writing. Gaming consoles. Fanfiction inspired apparel. Screenwriting software. Literary magazine subscription. Naruto almost stopped walking once he seen the dangerous smirk on her face, almost. So, Naruto-kun, what are you up to on this fine day? No missions for you I see. Does that mean you're free? Asked Ino in a semi-interested voice. The way she sounded, Naruto couldn't be so sure she was up to something. Most blondes were. Yeah, free day for me, replied Naruto as he scratched the fox on his neck. His eyebrows rose as he seen Ino sway her hips towards him, causing him to sweat just a little bit. Ino wasn't ugly. She had pale blonde hair that went down to her mid-back. Today she was wearing purple sneakers with the tightest of blue jeans. Her outfit ended with a purple figure was exquisite, testifying to the long hours she spent training her body to be at its peak. Naruto could still see the hidden seal on her back that represented her being a part of Anbu. She was head interrogator, and an excellent one at that. She continued her strut before stopping at his face and invading his privacy, not that he minded. As they were nose to nose, Ino smirked and latched onto his hands. Then we're going shopping. Since you make so much money on those missions you keep talking about, I want some shoes, some dresses, a new purse, and some bathing suits, some. Naruto sighed as he was led to his fate of spending more money. He didn't mind though. It was at least something to do. Besides, how bad could it be? 3 hours later. Are you serious? Yes, I am serious. I refuse, you're crazy. There is no way I am doing that. Oh come on, just take it off. I am not taking it off. You can't make me. Are you sure? Do you really want to test me in making you do something against your will? ARRGGH. This was the scene that people were seeing and trying to stay out of. If anyone knew of these two blondes, it was that they were extremely headstrong and determined to not do anything they didn't want to. As it was though, Naruto was being asked, better yet, forced, to put on a shirt. But not just any shirt. Shirts, in a plural sense. 17 shirts of various shades, colors and styles. In addition to jeans, shorts, slacks, shoes and hats and coats. Discover more. Books. Terms of service. TV show guides. Anime merchandise. Fan fiction books. World-building guides. Grammar checker tools. Creative writing courses. Play script downloads. Community forum software. Naruto just did not want to be bothered with that. He already spent loads of money feeding Ino's shoe addiction. Why did she love so much purple? Purple this, purple that, it was too much. Discover more. Books. Creative writing courses. Book. Author interviews. Fan fiction books. Writing critique services. Book club subscription. Community forum software. Digital art tablets. Crossover story prompts. Actually, take that back. He forgot he was a fiend for orange as well. So now he had Ino in his face growling, to which he returned with equal fervor. He refused to back down from this challenge. He was Uzumaki Naruto, Jonin of Konohagakure, son of the 4th Hokage, taught by the legendary Kakashi Hatake the copycat nin and the late Toad Sanin Jiraiya. No was a very viable option. Ino was about to choke him before coming to her senses and smirking. Naruto did not like the sign of that as he knew how devious she could be. Watch me Naruto-kun, You will put on everything," said a deviously smiling Ino as her hand slowly went to her back pocket so Naruto would not know what was about to happen. "You can't make." Naruto stopped talking as in a swift second his shirt was ripped and slowly the article of clothing fell to the floor, which caused a chain reaction of stopping women and slowing down time. Strong and finely tuned muscles were the thoughts running through her mind about Naruto's body, extremely muscular and sturdy. She should have done this earlier. Naruto was a hunk. The feel for him began to manifest even more than before. Naruto watched in slow motion as his shirt fell to the floor. He began breaking out in hives as he knew the effect this would cause. Drooling women with hearts in their eyes would rush him if he was around when the shirt hit the floor. He grumbled at the blushing and smiling Ino. That was dirty of her to have a hidden kunai in her pocket. In a yellow flash Naruto was in the dressing room with all of the clothing before the shirt hit the ground and out the room, at the register with his shirt miraculously taken along with Ino. Ino smiled. "Told you," she chirped as she latched onto his arm and leaned into his shoulder. "Females are so troublesome," mumbled Naruto, channeling Shikamaru as he began paying and putting his newly acquired clothing in a huge storage seal. Good thing he decided to take these with him. Before anything else was said, a huge grumbling noise was heard. Ino blushed as she looked away from a surprised Naruto who soon after laughed. "Let's go to my place and get some food," said Naruto as he led her to some food. Ino blushed at that but said nothing as she knew he meant strictly food. They were friends, sort of. Ino blanched at the thought that she really didn't know much about Naruto. All these years of watching him make a fool of himself, asking Sakura on dates, pranking the teachers and being a loudmouth. Who knew he would be becoming one of, if not, the strongest shinobi in Konoha? She smiled. Time to ask questions and learn about Naruto. Fine by me. So, Naruto, what do you like to? The two sat by the pond in Naruto's estate watching the goose, frog and sunset while enjoying some sandwiches that Naruto's clones whipped up. Ino had learned a lot about Naruto and him about her. After the harsh story about his life before he got older, which made Ino curl into him crying, making him blush a bit, they continued talking and realized they both shared a love of flowers, training, motivating and annoying people at the same time, even read the same manga, which brought a surprised funny face from Naruto, causing Ino to laugh very loud and joke on him about how his face looking like a gaping fist. Naruto suddenly caught a gleam as he held some of the pie he had made. "Hey Ino," Naruto said, as he discreetly ed his hand, holding the pie back. "What is it Naruto K?" Ino never got to finish her sentence as a wet, splosh, sound landed on her face. She slowly widened her eyes in surprise and touched her face to remove the substance dripping down her face, ignoring the loud sounds of laughter. "Look at your face now Ino. You look very sweet, and you smell like the best of pies," laughed Naruto as he rolled on his side and tried to push himself up despite his gut hurting from his laughter. "Pie. On her face. Thrown by Naruto. He must die. Naruto-kun," whispered a voice. For some odd reason, every animal in the clearing left, including his foxy companion. The sky grew dark, the roses withered and died and killer intent began leaking. "No one." Jokes with Ino's face. "No one. You," were the words that came from Ino, her head down and body shaking, before a small chuckle came from her throat. Her hand found her way to some soy sauce that came with the rice they ate. Her other hand grabbed onto his shirt. "Shall pay," shrieked Ino as she tossed the soy sauce onto Naruto's face and hair. The two then began a food fight before Naruto tackled Ino and they went rolling down the hill they were on before they fell into the pond and came up to start tossing water on each other's face, all the while laughing like little school children. The two continued until Naruto swam towards her. Grabbing her around the waist he then brought her and himself underwater before emerging and then throwing her back in, laughing. She never rose up. But he felt himself being lifted up before landed in the water back first as Ino emerged laughing. Naruto came up and the two panted in exhaustion before Naruto smiled. "You look beautiful when you're soaking wet. Did you know that?" Anyway, let's go get cleaned up, Naruto innocently said as he made his way out the water, never seeing the small blush that lit her face up. Discover more. Books, screenwriting software, TV show guides, privacy policy templates, play script downloads, story plotting software, author interviews, fan fiction writing, ebooks on storytelling, TV show box sets. Naruto was embarrassed. But it was not his fault. He let himself get so open. Well, his eyes and mouth anyway. And the bottle of water he had in his hand was definitely making a puddle at his feet. And his face felt hot. Was he coming down with a fever? He doubted it. His reason was simple. The person coming down those steps just might have made time freeze with such a simple amount of movement. He would start the description with her hair. Her usually ponytail was abandoned and was wild and untamed, giving her a very exotic look. Her eyes were shining under the lowering sun as it reflected and showed mirth, humor and mischievously. But the fact that the white shirt she had on was his old shirt from when he was 12, even on her it was big, but somehow hugged to her curves and made her look so beautiful. Then were the shorts that stopped at her mid-upper thighs. These were also from when he was 12. They were a nice shade of green, and in his pocket, as he never took it out, was a small gem he had found exploring the forest after a training session. Even in simplicity, Ino looked stunning. At that moment, the one thought that ran through his mind was Sakura who? They truly did not know what happened, but it did. They had talked the night away. It was now 12 in the morning. Luckily, neither had a mission in the morning. The two sat on Naruto's couch and talked some more about things, about Naruto learning his heritage and learning about family. What kind of jutsu was he learning? What kind of people had Ino had to interrogate, as she was now head of interrogations after being an apprentice under Ibiki. The conversation led into the night before Ino headed to her house. She knew her roommate would ask her questions if she got home any later. Naruto walked Ino home, telling her to keep all she had on and giving her the scroll that held all of her shopping items. As they walked through Konoha, the village was somewhat silent but still bustling with nightly routines and activities as people stumbled out the bar or were heading to the clubs. Ninja needed to have fun, because they could die at any moment. Finally they reached Ino's door. The butterflies in both stomachs were not appreciated. Thank you, Naruto. Ino finally said as she turned towards him. Naruto smiled. Anytime. We should do this again. Throwing pie in your face was truly the best prank I have done in years. Naruto said, chuckling, to which Ino punched him on the arm playfully before she invaded his space again. And wrapped her arms around his neck. His breath hitched and his body automatically felt warm and accepted. We should do this again, Naruto-kun. This is the most fun I've had in months. Ino practically purred into his ear playfully as she released him and headed to her door, pulling her keys out. Or would have had she not remembered that her keys were in her jeans, which were in the scroll. But felt something poking out of the pocket. She decided to look at it later. A little embarrassed, she knocked on the door knowing that Sakura was up. Have a good night, Ino, Naruto said with a smile as he retreated down the steps and made his way down and back to his mansion. Ino watched him go. It was always the same image. Him going into a fight, him going to avenge the dead of his fellow nin back against Kakuzu, him going off to face Sasuke. She was always watching him walk away, but now, after today, she wanted to walk with him. Be with him. She wanted Naruto. Naruto. Another day off. Just great. Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze headed upstairs to change his outfit yet again, his small fox yipping in laughter at his attitude towards it. This was the 4th time in 2 weeks that he forgot. I should really put these things on calendar, you know. Naruto muttered to himself as he came back downstairs wearing a navy blue versus neck shirt with gray cargo pants and the standard ninja shoes. Kyoshi wastes no time jumping up and wrapping around his neck as Naruto decides to put his Hitai on his arm this time. Alright, now let's go get some ramen, Naruto said as Kyoshi eyed his face in agreement. Hokage Tower. Tsunade Senju. Godime Hokage of the Great Konoha. The third and still alive member of the Sannin, powerful strength and incredibly sharp mind and the best medic nin in the whole of Konoha and possibly the elemental nations. Sake, Gamruto Suki, Grilber, was asleep and mumbling incoherent sentences currently. Yes, yes she was. Leave a message after the slam. Tsunade lifted her head up in a rush as Shizune came in, hiding her giggle. Tsunade-sama, the ambassador for Kumo has arrived. Discover more. Books, world-building guides, author mentorship programs, bookshelves, anime merchandise, crossover story prompts, writing critique services, creative writing courses, cartoon art prints, movie tickets. Tsunade rubbed the cold from her eyes as she nodded in approval. Discover more. Books, story plotting software, author mentorship programs, cartoon art prints, author interviews, fanfiction merchandise, terms of service, privacy policy templates, comic book subscriptions, community forum software. Send her in. She replied. She then snapped her fingers and called the Anbu to get the best person she could think of for this mission. Get me Naruto. Ichimaru ramen booth. Naruto smiled as he put his fourth ramen bowl down on the counter and patted his belly before looking down at his foxy companion also finish his bowl on the floor. Sure do pack them tight don't you Tsuki-san? Said Naruto as he chuckled. Only the best for my number one customer, Tsuki stated with a laugh. Naruto smiled before a voice called him. The same voice from all those years. Dobi. Naruto closed his eyes and paid no attention to the voice. When you start calling me by my given name, that's when I'll acknowledge your presence, Naruto said with a smirk as his best friend, Uchiha Sasuke sat down at the ramen stand and ordered a miso ramen. I'll think about it, but until then, your name will stay the same, Dobi, Sasuke replied as he picked up his chopsticks and began eating. Naruto sighed before smiling. So how was the mission? Gained another fangirl, Naruto said, causing the Jonin besides him to sigh. After a few years of returning to Konoha, the girls just wouldn't leave him alone. While it wasn't on the same scale as Naruto, which he joked on him about it to no end, it still wasn't far off from the academy days. Shut up, he replied as he continued eating. So when is the wedding? Naruto jested with a straight face. After a few years of playing the scene, Sasuke finally smartened up and got together with Sakura. Naruto wasn't as crushed as he thought he would be, but felt happy that his friend at least told him of his decision. We aren't getting married yet Yubaka, Sasuke mumbled. Yeah, I know, it's still funny watching her make you carry her bags, buy her products, wait for her at the salon. Naruto laughed as Sasuke tried to stab him with chopsticks. Sasuke stopped and smiled before looking downwards into his bowl. Discover more. Books. Fanfiction writing prompts. Fan fiction writing. Play script downloads. Bookshelves. Writing software. Gaming consoles. Grammar checker tools. Book. Novel writing workshops. Who knew that rebuilding a clan would be so hard? Takes a lot of patience and politics. But I wouldn't trade it for anything. Discover more. Books. Movie streaming service, fanfiction merchandise, literary magazine subscription, author interviews, fan fiction books, author mentorship programs, story plotting software, ebooks on storytelling, mobile app development. Naruto smiled and nodded in understanding before a small and unnoticeable twitch occurred on his left eyebrow before he drank a glass of water with a small smirk. Ah, so how can I help you Anbu-san? Naruto said without looking up before the figure appeared in a blur. The Hokage has requested you in her office, the Anbu stated. Alright, maybe I can go on a mission now. Naruto said with a smile before giving Sasuke a pound, placing his money on the counter and wishing the old man at the counter a goodbye as he scooped up Kyoshi and used a shunshin to head to the office. Hokage office. So how was your trip? Tsunade asked the ambassador. Pleasant. Cannot complain. No disturbances, just ready to do what needs to be done for my village, replied a female-toned ambassador, her voice clearly sounding a bit bored. Tsunade gave a knowing smirk as she wrapped her fingers together and put them under her chin. Are you sure you're doing this for your village or for yourself? Tsunade said with a smirk. The female said nothing, but the small blush was enough to answer her. She currently wished that something would come and save her from being asked any more questions about her real reason for being there. Luckily, it came. Suddenly both looked up into the window as wind flew in the office, whipping around paper and bringing a huge gust of wind before it suddenly stopped. Revealing Naruto in full ninja gear, flak jacket with a navy blue long-sleeved turtleneck, black slacks, straps on both legs holding his special daggers and combat boots with his eyes closed leaned on the window sill, elbows folded in his cool sage mode pose. You called Ba-sama? Naruto asked in his smooth voice, wind blowing his Hittite and chopstick twitching in his mouth. Before losing all of his points as he was bashed into the ground from a growling tsunade. You've sent all the just stamped papers to the floor Gaki. Tsunade growled as she grabbed Naruto by his flak jacket. Like you actually read those pieces of paper. I bet you just woke up from your daytime nap, Granny. Naruto growled in return as he was lifted in the air before being placed on his feet. What did I tell you about calling me that? Tsunade said as a knot formed on her face and she bashed her forehead into Naruto's and growled. Not to call you that before your daily glass of milk as you get grumpy. Well, I'm not scared, Grandma. Naruto shouted as he grasped his hands into a fist. Gaki, I'm gonna kill you and revive you to kill you again. Bring it then. I don't mind hitting an elderly lady. Oh yeah. The argument was cut to a sudden halt as the two gazed at the blank-faced sweat-dropping ambassador. Naruto blushed in embarrassment as Kyoshi was laid in the kunoichi's lap and was currently purring in contentment as the person stroked his fur. The awkwardness was stopped as Tsunade was in her desk in a flash and Naruto was still standing in his standard Jonin outfit. But he remained staring at the familiar kunoichi from Kumo. Pale blonde hair in a bowl-cut style but longer stopping around her shoulders with electric blue eyes. She had on a semi-tight gray shirt, confusing Naruto as he threatened to break through the shirt, short black skirt that stopped at mid-thighs, revealing her slender legs. She had a standard katana on her back with a leather strap and her Kumo Hittite wrapped on her right bicep. Her blank look at Naruto reminded him of the looks Neji, Gaara and Sasuke all seemed to fancy. Discover more. Books. Story plotting software. Anime merchandise. Novel writing workshops. Story writing workshops. Fanfiction writing prompts. Creative writing courses. Gaming consoles. World building guides. Fanfiction merchandise. Naruto's face turned a bit red as he quickly turned away and addressed the Hokage. Discover more. Books. Anime merchandise. Author mentorship programs. Book club subscription. Creative writing courses. Fanfiction inspired apparel. Play script downloads. Literary magazine subscription. Character design tools. Author interviews. So what's the mission, Ba-sama? Naruto said as he crossed his arms and got serious, if only to impress the cute kunoichi. Oh, how he was failing. Your mission is simple. You will be escorting Samui-san here around the village and keep her entertained, said Tsunade with a small smirk as she knew Naruto would come dressed for a full mission. Naruto stared at her before looking at Samui, then back at Tsunade, then back at Samui before face-palming. This is the last time I come dressed in mission garb. Naruto mumbled as he pulled his neck and instantly his ninja garb was torn off his body, revealing his outfit from before. The two kunoichi looked at him in confusion at this change. Naruto stared in confusion as well. What? I get bored. So I got a nice seal that can put me in ninja gear on my wrist. Anyway, come on Samui-chan, let us paint the town orange. Naruto didn't give her a chance to respond as he grabbed her hand and pulled her into his arms, making her blush a little. With Kyoshi already on his shoulder, he used a wind shunshin to mess up the papers some more, laughter fading with him. I am going to kill him, Minato, your son will be joining you soon. Tsunade thought as she called some genin in to clean the mess up. Village. Naruto walked with the blank-faced Samui throughout the village, thinking of what he could do to get her to be entertained while ignoring the looks the female population kept giving him and glaring at the male population for looking at the kunoichi like a piece of meat. Alright, I got it. I'll take you on a tour of the village. I'm sure you didn't get the chance to look around seeing as how we kind of had an invasion, Naruto said with a smile. Sure thing Goldie, Samui mumbled in a bored tone as she stretched her back complaining about her back issues. Naruto looked at her with a squinted eye and open mouth, making her smirk. But that was all he was going to get from her. You don't laugh much, do you? Said Naruto suddenly as he leaned into Samui's confused face. What is there to laugh about? If it is funny, I will laugh. Now back up, you are too close to my face and I need space. Samui said as she slowly pushed Naruto away. Naruto smiled a bit. It has been a while since he met a female that didn't smile, not since Koyuki and Shion. Demon country. Achu. Said person opened her eyes from her meditation before a small blush and smile appeared on her face. It is time for Naruto to help me, she said in a low voice. Spring country. I don't want to get married to any of these men. Koyuki said as she threw all the pictures of bachelors to the floor. The hundreds of pictures being spread on the floor. She finally turned to the advisor who looked at her in surprise. I need a strong man, a determined, charming man who knows me and loves me for me. Koyuki looked at the picture on her desk. A small smile appeared on her face. Then she sneezed. Koyuki-sama. Koyuki lifted her face up and made her way out of the office. Call my carriage. I'm going to get Naruto Uzumaki. Konoha. Achu. Achu. Yelled a voice. Tissue. Samui said with a look of small interest as she held it up. Naruto looked at the tissue before giving her an embarrassed grin and taking it. Thanks, he said as he wiped his nose and put it in his pocket before smiling at her in a very suggestive manner. I know what I'm going to do for you, Naruto said as he stopped walking. Oh, and what is that? Said Samui in a serious tone, eyebrows raised in curiosity. Simple. I'm going to make you laugh, said Naruto as he walked on. Samui looked at him before shaking her head. Good luck, she whispered as she followed along. I've actually got a lot of good luck. You should ask Ba-sama, said Naruto as he was now behind her. She had no chance to ask how he got behind her or how he heard her as she felt her hand being grabbed again and led to a place she had no idea. Alright Samui-chan, let's go have some fun, Naruto said as he ran off. Samui looking at him for a few minutes before smirking again. Maybe, just maybe, it won't be so bad. Hours later, Samui finally cracked. She finally laughed. But Naruto was not laughing with her. He had taken her everywhere. The training grounds where he cracked jokes about Team 7, receiving blank faces, the mall where he met Rock Lee and Guy and saved Samui from the horrid genjutsu of them hugging. The shopping districts, where he cracked jokes about his old outfits, the arcade, where he beat her in every game, the academy, where he told her of his class clown tendencies, producing a loli's murk, then went to Ichimaru's for lunch, trying to get her to laugh by playing around with his food, and now they were back at his house and all it took for her to laugh was for him to slip on a banana and crash down a flight of stairs. This is so not funny. Can you at least help me up so I can take you to the final place for the day before my mission ends? Naruto said with a groan. This fall was so not cool. Kiyoshi just loved to leave fruits on the floor at the most inopportune times of life. At least she laughed. Sure, Samui said as she extended her hand. Then pulled it back, causing him to crash onto the floor again. Naruto grumbled as she walked past him. Or she would have if he had not grabbed her ankle and brought her crashing to the floor. Ha, now who's laughing now? He replied as he got up, and then in turn got leg tripped. Samui smiled as she crawled over towards him and bashed his face to the ground. But the floor brings out your eyes, she said in a joking tone. Naruto looked up in shock. You just told a joke, Naruto said with a raised eyebrow. Yes, I did. I can be fun if I want to. I just like to make people work for it, replied Samui as she attempted to get up. Naruto sprang into action as he tackled her down and began wrestling with her. Well, looks like I'll have to work some more, Naruto said with a smile. The two began wrestling before Naruto touched her side, causing her to laugh. Naruto stopped and a cruel smirk appeared. Ticklish are we? Naruto said as he began moving his fingers in the air. Samui's eyes widened before Naruto plunged his fingers into her sides, causing her to burst into loud laughter. She flipped it on him and the two began laughing some more before Naruto and Samui stopped with Samui on her back and Naruto on top of her. Told you I can get you to laugh, Naruto said as he gazed in her blue eyes. I suppose you were right, Samui said with a smirk. The room turned silent as the other looked deep into the other's eyes, literally sparks flew from the amount of peering the two were doing. Unconsciously, one began to lean into the other, not knowing what was about to happen, but not willing to stop it. The lips felt dry yet urgent to connect, and the passion that began to emerge from simply looking at one another was unbearable. But a loud yip broke the chemistry that was formulating between the two, and just like that the moment was over. It was then that they noticed the position they were in and the two literally flew off of one another. Let's go. I want to take you to one more place, Naruto said quickly as he grabbed a nice trench coat and led her outside, not making eye contact. Samui looked at him with a thoughtful expression. Very respectful, surprising considering who his sensei was. Fun, but knows how to be serious, strong, determined. Maybe he can be the one, Samui thought as she was led outside. The two walked in silence, as she knew if she asked where they were going that he would not answer. Eventually the two came up a flight of stairs. After some climbing, Naruto walked her to a cliff before Samui caught sight of the most amazing view. This is the top of the cage's monument. I used to come up here and watch the view and still do from time to time. This is the best part of the village. Sitting here on my father's head and watching the village. It's like I'm letting him know that I'm watching and protecting Konoha for him, you know. Naruto said as he sat down and patted for her to do the same. As she sat down, the two made small talk as she told him about Kumo and he in return talked to her about Konoha. Eventually he got her to actually break into a natural genuine smile. It was better than the view of the village. You should really smile more often, Naruto whispered as he removed his coat and wrapped it around her before resting his elbows on his knees, missing her small blush. Who would have thought he'd be such a gentleman? Naruto gazed at the village with a relaxed expression. This whole day was pretty fun, he had to say. Learned a lot about Samui and really wanted to hang out with her, let alone see her again. Eventually Naruto smiled and extended his hand. Let's get you to where you're staying for the night. I'm sure you're exhausted from all the walking, Naruto said as he stared at her eyes. Samui looked at his hands before slowly placing her hands in his, and her face went from impassive to brief shock as he used his strength and tossed her onto his back before catching her thighs and turning towards the cliff. Hold on tight, was the only warning she got before he jumped off of the faces, surprising Samui as he took her on a peaceful ride throughout the village. Eventually and sadly, in Samui's opinion, they reached the inn she was staying in. Naruto put her down in front of her door. I hope you enjoyed the tour of Konoha. Maybe we could hang out again, you know, Naruto said as he scratched the back of his head. Samui said nothing before slowly walking up to him. Naruto began to get nervous as most of the times, the females he knew would approach him to hit him. So he began to panic. I mean, only if you want to. I don't want to. He was silenced by a chaste kiss to his whiskered cheeks, causing his eyes to widen and him to flush. Slowly touching his cheeks, he turned to see her smiling at him with her hands clasped in front of her. Thank you for the trip around the village, Naruto-kun. And for making this decision so much easier. I didn't even know it, but you are the one I've come to Konoha for. Naruto smiled, not having a clue about her thoughts before watching her walk towards the inn. Anytime, Naruto replied as he turned away and walked away silent, hands in his pocket and eyes towards the moon. Samui looked at him before remembering his trench coat was still wrapped around her. She decided to keep it so she'd have another excuse to see him. Besides, she'd be here for the next year, so she'd have many opportunities. Naruto smiled as he lay in his bed staring at the ceiling with Kyoshi curled up on his stomach. Best mission ever. The mission was a failure. What was supposed to be a simple escort mission became an ambush from some weird Odo nins, who should have been killed a long time ago. Apparently, this group was the last batch of nins still alive after that war. So when 60 nin show up just to kill 3 Konoha shinobi and 1 shinobi after making their way back to Konoha from their mission, something was obviously wrong. Anko Mitarashi, for once, was afraid. The last time she had been afraid was when she was in the middle of the mob that was about to kill her, when she was defenseless and weak. She refused from then on to show weakness. But now, with the remaining 50 or more against just her as the other 3 nins with her gave their lives to get her away from them, her left arm was dislocated, kunai and shuriken all over her body, it looked inevitable. She was going to die. She would die without her dango, she would die without getting this stupid seal off of her neck, she would die still being feared by Konoha, she would die single, with no man to care for her, no man to love her, nobody to hold her in these last seconds. It was over. Hiroshin no Jutsu. She was right. It was over. Her eyes snapped open to find herself in an empty field and in the arms of a blonde-haired shinobi. But the fourth was dead, so this could only be. "Are you okay, Snake-san?" said a voice in a serious tone. Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto, the strongest Junin out of the rookie 9 who also started off as the dead last of the group. Son of Minato Namikaze, 4th Hokage, godson of Jiraiya the Toad Sannin, trained by him, and Kakashi Hatake, son of the White Fang. His look was so stoic, a look that didn't look right on him. But she could feel the concern in his voice. "What happened?" was Anko's simple response as she gazed into his cerulean orbs that were fixed on her. Then a smile appeared. "Oh, that's easy. I was patrolling this area seeing as how we have taken over Rice Country when I came across 3 dead Konoha nin and 8 dead Oto nins with 2 on the brink of death. I interrogated 1 and then sent both Kunoichi to Konoha for treatment and further interrogation. Then I found you curled up in a ball with about 40 nin about to kill you. So I did my awesome jutsu and killed or disabled them, then went to Konoha to ask for reinforcements, then came back and grabbed you, and now we are outside of Konoha about half of a mile. You're very injured, so I had to stop here, otherwise you'll possibly die with the speed I was going and the amount of blood you're currently dripping. It's pretty late, so we should prepare firewood, Anko-san, don't you agree?" said Naruto all in one breath. Anko was floored. She wouldn't let this opportunity go to waste. She was alive. She had a chance to eat dango, to shower again, to live again. 2. Anko gazed into his cerulean eyes again, and her eyes watered. The last time she cried was in the arms of the Sandaime Hokage when he gave her a chance to be a ninja again. When she threw him to the floor and bawled in his Junin flak jacket and felt him rubbing her back and telling her it was okay, she knew 2 things. She was crying again and she wanted to be held by him. When Anko came to, she found herself warm and comfortable. She looked around to find herself underneath a warm knapsack in a tent with the sound of burning wood. "I see you're awake, I hear. How is everything?" said a voice that Anko knew was Naruto. "Better," was her simple reply as she slowly crawled out her tent. Or tried to. Pain shook through her body as she gasped in shock. In 2 seconds she felt strong arms hold her shoulders. "You're in a lot of pain right now, Anko-san. Moving on your own is not possible right now. Let me help you." Naruto lifted Anko into his arms bridal style and set her down next to a tree before sitting on his log, not seeing the small blush that appeared on her face. "When was the last time someone did that for me?" she asked herself. "So what happened?" Naruto asked after passing her a ration bar that was ramen flavored. Anko inwardly shrugged as she ate the ration and told her the story of what happened with the escort mission and the ambush. Naruto nodded in contemplation. We'll be heading to Konoha in the morning. I'll take you to the hospital where they will fully heal you, and then I'll take you to the Hokage's office so you can report the mission. But since you're awake, I was looking at that seal. Naruto raised his eyebrow a bit when he seen her hand unconsciously move towards her neck. To feel nothing. I took it off. I don't know how long you had that on, but it couldn't have been for a good cause. It's a good thing we have the originator of that seal in Konoha, and I happen to have the chemicals needed to release the seal on you, but your seal is gone. Naruto said as he looked into the sky with his hands behind his head, leaning on the tree. Anko was scared. This couldn't be happening. This had to be a dream. Kai. Nothing changed. Could it be that the man she was looking for to care for her, protect her, be there for her, was right here? Was Naruto? Anko slowly tried to crawl over to him as he continued to peer into the sky with his eyes opened. She needed to do this. Naruto was busy looking into the stars trying to figure out what was going on with his life. First Akatsuki was finished. Sasuke was still alive and was made back into a Konoha shinobi, a Junin at that. He was instated as the Namikaze clan heir, and then things took a turn for the worst when Naruto felt a hand grasp his flak jacket. His eyes immediately locked onto Anko, who looked to be straining herself crawling towards him. He froze. He had never seen such a look in her eyes. He had seen mirth. He had seen fear when those nin were about to end her life. She had seen amusement when she thrown that kunai at him back in the Chunin exam, but this look was unexplainable. So he did nothing when she grasped his jacket and pulled herself up to his face and hugged him, continuously thanking him. When she released him, she laid her head on his chest and whispered for him to hold her. He did. For once in her life, Anko felt home. Naruto felt differently. He felt complete. We are close to home, Anko-san. Naruto whispered as she nodded on his back. The two awoke in the morning in each other's arms. Somewhat awkwardly, they let go and cleaned up the campsite before Naruto told her to get on his back and they would travel back to Konoha. The whole trip the two just talked. Naruto could see her old self coming back as she mercilessly whispered about how she would feed him to her snakes if he uttered a word to anyone about what happened in the forest. Naruto quickly agreed. As they came up to the gates, laughing and talking excitably like old friends, the guards Kotetsu and Izumo had to wonder what happened to Anko, as she would always come back barely scratched and fingering a kunai. Not on the back of a shinobi, looking quite bruised and hurt. The main question, as the two passed by them without a word, was, "Where is her curse seal?" Izumo asked Kotetsu. Kotetsu laughed as he watches Anko try to choke Naruto from afar. Naruto is just like his father. He's a seal master. So I'm thinking he removed it, he replied, looking towards the fourth Hokage. Izumo was silent before he chuckled. That makes sense. I'll kill you. I'd like to see you try, Cobra-chan. Shikamaru sighed. There the two went again. Ever since Naruto brought Anko to the Hokage and Tsunade ordered that she was to heal under the watch of Naruto to see if any negative reaction would occur from the removal of the seal, and until she was back to full health, the two would be screaming at one another and then act like nothing happened in seconds. This was only the second day. Troublesome, you two sound like a married couple, Shikamaru said, sitting on the couch as he watched the two butting heads and growling at one another. Like I would wanna marry him, her, they simultaneously screamed before noticing the other say the same thing. What you say? Stop saying what I'm saying. You're doing it again. The two continued saying what the other was saying at the same time. Shikamaru just wanted to hang with Naruto and play shogi, maybe stare at the clouds, things like that. Now, he just wanted to solve this issue and go back to relaxing. Look, it's obvious both of your prides won't allow you to admit that you enjoy one another's company, being the way things usually occurred when you trust others, seeing as how one of your senseis defected and abandoned you and another's best friend tried to kill him. But I am pretty sure you both know how to trust others and not be like the people that hurt you, so just get over it and admit you want to be in the other's life. You two are too strong to be acting so foolish. Get over it. Anyway, I am going home. By the way, Shikamaru moved one piece to finish the game and left, lighting his cigarette before opening the game and blowing it. Checkmate. Spelled out the smoke. I need to learn how to do that. Naruto mused to himself before sighing. He's right, Naruto said as he sat down next to Anko. I don't mind having you as a friend. I think it would be a good friendship, seeing our past has some similarities. Naruto said as he averted making eye contact with her. Anko was silent before breathing in and out slowly before grasping his chin and looking at him. Well, first, friends look one another in the eye instead of blushing and looking away. She said with a smile as Naruto turned red in embarrassment. Sorry. No problem. Look, I am willing to be your friend as well, it's just a lot to take in right now, so forgive me if I'm acting out. No one has ever done so much for me for no reason, and the last person that did. Naruto knew what she was going to say and shook his head in disagreement. I will never abandon you. Anko could see the determined look in his eyes and knew he wouldn't. Good. Now hold me again, Anko said as she crawled into his laps. Do friends do this? Hold one another? Naruto asked in a low voice. It had been years that he longed to be held. He never made a big deal about it, but when she wrapped her arms around him, he felt all those years of longing coming back full force. Yes, they do, Anko whispered as she soon fell asleep. Naruto smiled before nodding off again, Kyoshi soon joining them and falling asleep as well. A figure came into the gates of Konoha very late at night next to another figure. Returning from training trip? Asked the late-night ninja as he instantly knew who it was that entered the gate. Yes, I'll be making my way home now, said a female voice as her sensei nodded and shunshed away into small papers. The female figure headed off to her home, all the while holding onto a three-pronged kunai. Naruto-kun. The birds chirped as a new day arose over Namikaze Naruto as he awoke on the couch with Mitarashi Anko on his chest still awake. Not that he minded. Who wouldn't want to awake to someone so beautiful? Naruto stared at the ceiling and thought about all that had occurred in the past few weeks. First was the encounter with Ino, then it was taking Samui on a tour of the village, and finally Anko, who now lived with him until she recovered fully from her injuries. Naruto sighed. What is next? Then the doorbell rang. Naruto created a clone by the door and swapped places with it. When he opened the door, an Anbu was awaiting for him. Naruto blinked before sighing. Give me 5 minutes, I'll be at the tower. The Anbu nodded before disappearing. Naruto got showered, brushed and dressed before deciding not to go dressed for a mission. The Anbu didn't say to anyway. Dressing in a plain t-shirt with jeans and some combat boots, Naruto headed out for the tower, Kyoshi wrapped around his neck. Hokage Tower. Tsunade was smiling. She finally had her revenge on the brat. Naruto would finally get what he deserved for that paper incident and then some. It was in the form of the regal figure awaiting the person coming in right about. Discover more. Books. Grammar checker tools. Book. Gaming accessories. Movie streaming service. Mobile app development. Story writing workshops. Character design tools. Play script downloads. World building guides. The door opened and in came Naruto with his eyes closed and his hands holding his fox pet. Discover more. Books. Grammar checker tools. Crossover story prompts. Book. Terms of service. Fanfiction writing prompts. Fan fiction writing. Screenwriting software. Writing software. Ebooks on storytelling. What is it you want, Ba-chan? Naruto froze on the spot once he saw just who was in the office. Shien-chan, whispered Naruto, shock apparent on his face. He hadn't seen her in years. And she looked stunning. She had on a simple white dress that went down to her ankles with red, yellow and blue flowers at the bottom. In her hand looked to be a scroll and by her feet was an arrangement of suitcases and the like. Naruto smiled finally and opened his arms as she ran into his arms, blushing as he picked her up and spun her around. How have you been? Asked Naruto. He couldn't wait to share his stories and hear her stories in return. That can wait until later on, said Tsunade as she cut him off and prepared for the trap. Shion is on vacation for the time being as she is taking a leave for personal reasons. As such, she requested stay in your residence seeing as how she knows you and you have much space in your complex, said Tsunade. Knowing he wouldn't remember about Anko staying or that he didn't know about the coming person either. Ah, Minato, Kushina, Jiraiya, Sarutobi, I hope you're watching. Of course she can stay with me, said Naruto with a grin, hands still holding onto Shion, who was still blushing but had a content look on her face. A few shadow clones appeared seal-less and began picking up the bags. So, how would you like to take a walk around the village before we go to the house? We could talk then, said Naruto. I would like that, Shion said with a smile. Great. Then we're off. See you later Ba-chan, said Naruto as he left the room with a still red in the face Shion. I hope you haven't forgotten what I asked you for, Naruto-kun. 4 hours later, Naruto and Shion talked throughout the day into the afternoon about what had occurred for the both of them since the mission in Demon Country. Every time the conversation would get close to whether or not Shion had a relationship, she would change the conversation and sputter. Suddenly, as they passed by a restaurant, Shion's stomach growled kind of loud. Hungrier ya, said Naruto with a grin, chuckling at her embarrassed blush. Discover more. Books. Mobile app development. Crossover story prompts. Book club subscription. Writing software. Fanfiction inspired apparel. Terms of service. Book. Bookshelves. Cartoon art prints. Come, I'll take you to my favorite spot to eat, said Naruto with a smile as he led her to Ichiraku's ramen shop. Ichiraku's ramen shop. Hey old man. 3 bowls of miso soup and some beef for Shion for starters, yelled Naruto as he brought the blinds to the side and sat down, patting his seat next to him for Shion to sit down. Oh, and who is this? Girlfriend of yours? Asked Chuki as he brought the steaming bowl down in front of Naruto and Shion. Naruto blushed a bit and scratched the back of his head. Hee as if someone as beautiful as Shion Heim would want to go out with me, said Naruto with a chuckle. Shion smiled. You never know Naruto, I just might take you up on that offer of being your girlfriend, Shion laughed as Naruto choked on his ramen in shock. Chuki chuckled as he walked away to let Naruto talk his way out of that situation. Naruto sighed in delight before suddenly looking outside and smiling. I want to show you something, said Naruto suddenly as he put a wad of bills on the table for the ramen. Come, let's go, Naruto said extended his hand. Shion was silently wondering what was he up to before finally grabbing his hand. Shion blushed suddenly as he brought her up to his chest and wrapped his arms around her waist. Does he know? Is he ready to help me? Were her thoughts at the moment. She was interrupted as his baritone voice rung in her ear. Hold tight. In a swirl of leaves they were gone from the restaurant. Valley of the End. As Shion opened her eyes, a gasp of surprise, awe and shock occurred. The only description she could give as to where she was right now was breathtaking. Naruto landed on top of the first Hokage statue, giving them a view of the waterfalls and countless trees and wildlife that littered over the area. This is the place where I and Sasuke fought, Naruto said suddenly, eyes distant and looking at the exact area they talked and fought at. We came here at least twice to fight. The second time was when I won and carried him back to Konoha. Naruto said as he finally let go of Shion, much to her disappointment, and sat down at the edge of the first's head. It's funny, learning how history repeats itself. I am of Senju blood and Sasuke was of Uchiha blood. We fought 2 times, and changed the landscape to what it is now. This has now become our training ground. We fight here, we talk here, and we plan here. This is the best area in all of Fire Country to me. Because it means the most to me, said Naruto. Shion slowly walked towards him before sitting down behind him and draping her arms around him. Why would you share this area with me? Said Shion after a few moments of feeling the embrace and becoming one with him. Naruto was silent for a few minutes, thinking about how to reply. I don't know, it just felt like the right thing to do. You know, said Naruto with a sheepish grin. Shion said nothing before moving to sit in front of him. Slowly she tilted his chin up and looked him straight in the eyes. I do know Naruto. Then she kissed him. It felt like the right thing. To both of them. Come, let's take you to where I stay. It's getting late and you look a bit tired, said Naruto as he scooped her up and jumped off into the trees to head back to Konoha by the scenic route. Shion closed her eyes and heard nothing but the melody of his heart and hers resonate. He'll be a good father. He's so thoughtful, strong, and he cares. I knew he would be the one. I need to tell him what I meant back then, but when? How? Namikaze residence. Anko. I'm home, yelled Naruto as he came into the house, Shion following behind him. When she heard him call out a woman's name, she thought maybe it was a maid or his cousin. When said person entered the room, however, Shion knew that this was not anyone related to him. Anko hobbled up to the two, Kyoshi wrapped around her neck before seeing the new arrivals and rushing over to be petted by Shion, who soon obliged. Ah, good to see you're awake still. Anko, this is Shion, priestess of. Ex-priestess for the moment Naruto-kun. I'm on vacation, corrected Shion as she stared down Anko with a bit of fear, wonder. Naruto couldn't tell. Anko just grinned. Nice to meet you, Anko said as she bowed towards her before jumping into Naruto's arms. Now I believe you owe me a massage. No, Naruto-kun. Purred Anko as she poked him with each syllable to his name. Naruto pouted. Fine, let me show Shion her room first and then I'll meet you there, said Naruto, not knowing what Anko was really doing, or feeling the killer intent coming from Shion. Thanks Naruto-kun, you're such a good man. One day you'll make the perfect husband, treating me like this. I should just keep you all to myself and be your wife, said Anko in a tone Naruto couldn't tell as she was serious or not. So he laughed nervously. Heh, I try my best Anko-chan, said a red-faced Naruto as he quickly put her down and grabbed Shion's hand, dragging her upstairs. He put his head down to cover his flush. I wouldn't mind being married to Anko-chan either. Midnight. Naruto lay down on his bed staring at the ceiling. Things were moving too fast for him right now, if he were to think about it. What was it with all of these females suddenly appearing and acting so different towards him? Not that he didn't think they were all beautiful in their own way, it was just very convenient for them to suddenly appear just when he learned that. A tap on the window interrupted his thought. Naruto looked to his window to see a cloaked figure at the door. Thinking it was Anbu, Naruto got up and walked towards it. He opened the door, only to shake in shock and surprise. He was not prepared for what was on the other side. But the other side was prepared for him. A whip wrapped around his neck and pulled him out of his house. Kyoshi patted over and pushed the door closed, yipping as it went back to sleep on the bed. Outside, Naruto flew through the air from the window for what felt like minutes before crashing into a tree before a poof went off, signifying it was merely a clone. The cloaked figure stood there for a minute before disappearing in a swirl of water. Knowing he would follow, when the figure arrived at an empty field, she threw the kunai to the other side and awaited his arrival. In a flash, Naruto appeared, Junin outfit on and daggers in hand held in a reverse grip in front of his face. If it's a fight you want, it's a fight you got, Naruto said with a grin. Wasting little time, Naruto ran over to the figure in a burst of speed, sending the ground up in the air with each step. He then jumped high in the air and came down in a downward slash with both hands, to which the figure pulled out two kunai and blocked his assault, inwardly shocked as her kunai cracked with one hit. The figure pushed him and dropped her kunai before being in his face in 2 seconds. Naruto was confused at his speed. Then a palm thrust hit him dead in his chest, sending him flying into a tree. Before he could recover, the figure was again in front of him. The figure then grabbed his head and kissed him. Naruto fell into a daze as the person's lip touched his and melted in her embrace. Then the figure spoke. Find me, Naruto-kun. Then she disappeared. Naruto said nothing at all. His eyes were wide opened and his mouth was as well. He stayed in the same spot before standing up slowly and walking back home. Retrieving his thrown kunai, he looked at it for a few seconds before smiling. Two can play that game, Hinata-chan. Tsunade was sitting on her couch sipping on sake with a relaxed look on her face. The day wasn't that bad. Besides personally handing out missions and signing thousands of paperwork, it was nice to finally settle down for a bit. Her thoughts were on Naruto and possibly giving him the title of Hokage. He had done everything needed. But she decided he needed to get his priorities straight in terms of settling down. Speaking of such a thing, shouldn't he be here by now to discuss what happened? The sound of the door opening was heard before, just as she guessed, came in Uzumaki Naruto with a thoughtful and confused face. Ba-chan. Tsunade nodded and patted the seat next to her. Sit down. It took you long enough to come to me, said Tsunade. She then handed him some sake and told him to explain what he needed help with. Naruto told her everything, from the hug from Ino, to the kisses from the other girls, to the feeling of waking up with Anko sleeping next to him and finally finishing with Hinata's sudden appearance. Tsunade was silent before smirking. What is there to be confused about? Marry them all. Tsunade chuckled as she watched Naruto spit out his sake while coughing out words she couldn't understand. Ba-chan, this isn't a joke, I'm dealing with emotions here, how do I get through with this? What if they ask me to decide between them? Asked Naruto as he stared at his cup. She sighed before getting serious. Naruto, you're a grown man now, you can only get older. Time is short, I think, if you get to know them furthermore, you'll find the one for you. Hang out with them equally, take them out on dates, that way, you can figure out which one strikes your fancy, said Tsunade as she patted his head like a mother would a child. Naruto smiled before putting the sake down and leaning onto Tsunade's lap as she ran her fingers through her head. This became a normal routine after a while. Naruto would drop by and Tsunade would answer any question he had. Only when they were in the company of one another would they act like a real family. After a while Naruto spoke again. So, I'm thinking of a way to properly greet Hinata, seeing as she really did surprise me tonight, said Naruto as he spoke in low tones, feeling comforted by his adopted grandmother. Do you now mind sharing how you plan on doing that? Said Tsunade with a smirk. Discover more books, movie tickets, book club subscription, community forum software, literary magazine subscription, gaming consoles, digital book downloads, world-building guides, screenwriting software, TV show guides. Throughout the night Naruto gave some ideas and Tsunade either approved or would slap him on the head for coming up with such a foolish idea. Up until the sunrise the two talked and relaxed. Something ninja don't do often, but family did whenever they got the chance to. Hinata woke up to smell the sweetest smell in her entire life. It smelled like cinnamon rolls. Hinata snuggled into her bed before realizing one thing. She didn't eat cinnamon buns, hadn't eaten it in a year ever since she left for her special training program with Konan-sensei. She suddenly sprung out of bed to find an assortment of cinnamon rolls displayed over her dresser in a box with a note on it. As she picked up the note, she suddenly smiled. Dear Hinata, by picking up this picture, you have begun the Hinata challenge. The trials you will endure involve your personality and all the special attributes that make you who you are. Taking one bite of these cinnamon rolls will make your first letter equals heavenly. If you would channel chakra into the bottom of this note, you will be led to the next challenge and note. Enjoy the sweets first, they're handmade. Sincerely, the sage. Hinata smiled sweetly as she read the last line before deciding to eat her breakfast. Taking up a orange frosted roll, she took one bite and felt like she was on cloud 9. These were amazing. Faster than Naruto eaten ramen, the entire roll was finished before Hinata decided to save the rest for later. Getting ready to leave for her hunt for the next clue, she channeled chakra into the note and giggled softly at the next clue before leaving the Hyuga mansion to do the next challenge. Konoha Stadium. Hinata walked to the front doors to see a weird seal on the entrance. Not recognizing it, she deducted that it was something not for regular eyes. As she put her Byakugan on, she read the seal before walking up to it and putting chakra through the seal. The doors opened with AC and Hinata opened the door to find 100 smiling Narutos in different outfits, styles and sizes. Discover more. Books, movie tickets, gaming consoles, bookshelves, book, terms of service, literary magazine subscription, fanfiction-inspired apparel, digital art tablets, cartoon art prints. Hinata marveled at the sight and if she was herself 4 years ago, would have fainted already. But after confessing her love to him, this was just a walk in the park. After thinking about what he wished for her to do, she nodded as she began dispelling each clone that did not look like the real him, including a Naruto dressed in Jiraiya's garb and a red-haired Naruto. She chuckled at that, and an extremely shy-looking Naruto. She sweat dropped at that. Finally she arrived at the final 2 Narutos dressed in Hokage garbs. After staring at them with her Byakugan, she finally noticed the one difference. One had no cute whisker marks. Dispelling that one, the final Naruto smiled. You have completed the challenge, here is your next clue and scroll. Handing the girl the scroll, the clone saluted before dispelling himself. Hinata opened it up. Congratulations. You have completed the intelligence challenge. I equals intelligent. Your knowledge was always top-notch in my book. You are the smartest woman I know. Now, for your next challenge, follow the tail. The sage. Hinata looked around before seeing a waving tail at the end of the entrance. Walking towards it, she watched as the tail waved before walking off. Hinata followed at a slow pace before speeding up as the tail started turning corners faster. After running through the bathhouses, Hokage Monument and past her own home, she found the tail waving inside of Ichiraku's. Hinata walked in to find a yipping Kyoshi-ing ramen with a yame next to him. Ah, Hinata-san, welcome back. Nah, I mean, the sage wanted me to give this to you. Giggling, Ayame handed Naruto a note and a leash that was tied to Kyoshi. Hinata, the next letter that makes your name is Nurturer. Your usage of healing ointments and carefulness with nourishing plant life proves to me that you care for all things in a very delicate manner. As such, I put my trust in you by leaving you to take care of Kyoshi here. Nourish him, train him, feed him, teach him, because this quality is one I have learned how to do from you, so why not let the teacher show the student how it's done? The sage. Hinata smiled before taking Kyoshi for a walk after he finished his ramen. Academy. After taking Kyoshi back to the manor, letting Hanabi rub its belly, feeding him some fine cuisine and giving him a bath, Hinata let Kyoshi lead her to the academy and into the classroom of Iruka. Hinata-san. Right on time, I've been given this note to give to you, said Iruka with a knowing smile as he handed her the next clue. Hinata, your next challenge is to be aspiring. How do you do that, you ask? Simple. Everyone wants to be like their sensei. In some aspects anyway. As such, your challenge is to teach the kunoichi how to be the best that they can be. We wouldn't want another Sakura Ino accident now, would we? The sage. Hinata chuckled as she awaited her next assignment. The room filled with the students returning form playing outside. As they filled in their seats, many of the young students either looked at the Hyuga with the fox or some just ran up and petted the fox before Iruka got the classroom to finally settle down. Alright class, today we are in for a special treat. The kunoichi will be getting a lesson from the next heir to the Hyuga clan herself, said Iruka, the females gasping in awe and amazement. Everyone knew of the valiant effort Hinata had put up to defend Naruto and Konoha during the Pain invasion. Discover more. Books, movie tickets, fanfiction writing prompts, writing critique services, grammar checker tools, community forum software, play script downloads, TV show guides, comic book subscriptions, book club subscription. With that being said, the boys will be going outside to get some lecturing about the history of Konoha today, said Iruka, the males of the class groaning, some wanting to hear the discussion. Discover more. Books, book, mobile app development, crossover story prompts, play script downloads, grammar checker tools, terms of service, gaming accessories, writing critique services, bookshelves. Slowly but surely, the class was left with the young women and Hinata, who breathed in and out to calm herself down. Well, being a kunoichi requires. Hinata closed her eyes as she remembered her times with her team and the missions and friendship to family feeling. It requires a lot of important bonding with your teammates in addition to being strong enough to defend both yourself and your teammate. To be a kunoichi of Konoha means that you fight not only for your village, but you're out there facing the evils of the world. You find that you will fight your hardest protecting whatever you held dear to you. If you hold Konoha dear to you, you'll fight for Konoha. If you hold your teammates dear, you'll fight your hardest. Did you mean it when you said you love me? I did, and if I had to do it again, I would. Because it's true. Hinata, I have to go. Naruto, I need to be stronger. Don't wait for me. As long as you're happy, Naruto-kun, that's all that matters. Hinata, goodbye Naruto-kun, my love. If you love something, you'll die for it. Being a kunoichi to me, meaning you will fight for what you believe, for what you love, with determination. Never give up. That has become my ninja code, and as a kunoichi of Konoha, Hinata finally opened her eyes to see the room in awe and silent. Eyes filled with admiration, just like her eyes, whenever she looked at Naruto. I will do my best to be the strongest I can be in order to make sure nothing happens to Konoha, Hinata finished. In the corner of her eye, she had seen a yellow flash just leave the area. She smiled. Any questions? After answering all the questions and hopefully giving the class a new perspective on being a ninja, Hinata got a note from one of the students who said it was just laying there on the table with her name on it. Reading the note, she made her way to the sacred battleground for her next challenge. Sacred battleground. This area was the part of Konoha that was not fixed but left to pay homage to all the ninja that fought for Konoha, Naruto in particular. In the middle of the huge field was another stone showing the ninjas that died fighting off pain and a huge statue with Naruto standing on top of the toads he came in with. Kiyoshi laid down by the statue so that Hinata can face the challenge on her own. In the middle of the field was Naruto with a smile on his face. Are you ready for the next challenge, Hinata-chan? He asked. As she nodded, Naruto flashed through hand seals. Genjutsu. Infinite darkness jutsu. All light left the area and Hinata was unable to see a thing. All she heard was a voice. That sounded just like pain. Do you fear the unknown? He asked. Do you fear what you cannot see? How do you expect to live without knowing what tomorrow may bring? Why do you try? Who do you live for? Another voice spoke, then another, until 6 voices began asking questions in rapid succession before they all spoke as one. What is love? They repeated this question. Hinata knew they wanted an answer. She breathed in before answering. Love is to be fearless. It is to jump into the unknown knowing you could die fighting. It is throwing away all nervousness and reason to do what's right. It's showing you care. You become stronger when you love someone. What do you love? Hinata smiled. I love those who never give up, who continue to fight through anything. Those who smile in the face of danger. I love my family, I love my teammates, I love my sensei, I love Konoha, and Hinata giggled as she realized what T stood for. The truth is I've loved Naruto since we were younger, always have always will. The voice was silent before the darkness faded away. You pass. The area cleared away to reveal a note hanging on the Naruto statue. Hinata picked it up and sighed in relief. She had to go change her clothing for this challenge. Konoha Park, 8:00 p.m. Hinata arrived at the gate of the park to find it closed. She found the gate open once she got within 6 inches of it. Hinata had changed her outfit into a purple dress that went to her mid-thigh. She came with some of the rolls she had gotten this morning as well as some more food that she had cooked herself. Discover more. Books. TV show box sets. Ebooks on storytelling. Anime streaming services. Story writing workshops. Author mentorship programs. Screenwriting software. Character design tools. Comic book subscriptions. Bookshelves. When she got into the middle of the park, she gasped. Discover more. Books. Gaming consoles. Anime merchandise. Book club subscription. Grammar checker tools. Mobile app development. Play script downloads. Book. Community forum software. Story plotting software. There were candles set up in a circle with a table in the middle. On it was 2 cups and 2 plates with a lavender tablecloth underneath. Sitting to the left of the table was Kiyoshi. But it was the man standing behind her suddenly that had her attention. Strong arms wrapped around her and a deep voice whispered in her ear. Welcome back, Hinata-chan. Hinata fell into his arms and felt comfort. Naruto released her after a few minutes and guided her by hand to the table where she sat down. The two made small talk before Hinata sighed and smiled at Naruto. What is the real reason for all of this, Naruto-kun? She asked suddenly. Naruto too sighed. It took her long enough to ask. Because I remember what you told me before fighting pain, Naruto said. Hinata was silent, but if one were to look, you would see that her palm became sweaty and her hand was shaking. She had tried to forget about that confession. As such, she'd taken to trying to avoid being alone with Naruto whenever he was around. No matter how much he would try to talk to her, she would disappear. When the apprentice training trip with Konan came along, Hinata jumped at the opportunity to get away from Naruto so that things can calm down and she would come back confident and ready to talk to Naruto about what she said to him all that time ago. But, as she peered into his blue eyes, she felt her years of training slowly falling apart. She was scared, she was worried. What would he say? Why did he affect her so? What was it about him that made her so nervous and scared? She jumped a bit as she felt her hand being grabbed by Naruto. I understand now why you were acting the way you were, Hinata, Naruto said with a comforting smile. Hinata remained staring at him, her eyes unblinking and hanging onto every word. You were afraid of what I would say, that I would deny your love and that hurt you more than anything else on earth, so you figured, if you could avoid me, you wouldn't have to hear it. You could hold on to your proclamation without hearing my response. Naruto slowly rose out of his seat with his hand in Hinata's hand. The quick excuses to leave whenever I came into a room, the constant missions you would go on whenever I was on a mission myself, the training trip for 2 years in AIM, do you think I didn't notice you were avoiding me? Naruto said, his eyes looking a bit hurt but also determined. Hinata felt a part of her die. She didn't mean to hurt Naruto in any way, shape or form. She didn't know that avoiding him like that was hurting him. How could she have been so stupid? Naruto suddenly smiled. Do you know what the last letter stands for, Hinata? He said softly, slowly pulling her out of her seat. Hinata shook her head slowly, a bit surprised at the gesture of him wrapping his arms around her waist. Let me show you. In a flash of light, the two were gone. Undisclosed location. When Naruto landed, Hinata held onto his shirt to stop her dizzy feeling. Hey, sorry about that, I forgot people aren't used to moving so fast, Naruto said, rubbing his head. It's okay, Hinata whispered, as she looked around to where she was, she gasped. This was the first time Hinata ever talked to Naruto the day he went off to fight at the Chunin exams. Except there was a dazzling array of floating candles and, was that a violin? Amazing, Hinata whispered. Naruto chuckled. How do you know the last letter? Naruto said softly before leading her into the middle. There he held her right hand and bowed. May I have this dance? Hinata nodded and giggled at his antics. As they danced under the moonlight with the sound of violins, Naruto finished his thoughts and finally spoke. Hinata, this is the place where I told you I thought you were weird, but also the place where I told you I liked people like you. It's taken me a couple years, but I now realize the truth. Naruto moved his head to look her directly in her eyes. I've spent these past 2 years searching within myself for the answer and right response to your declaration, and it's simple. Naruto smiled. I've come to love you, Hinata. I've missed you in my life for the past 2 years. This hunt was done just for you, because I've been saving the moment to do so for these past 2 years. Everything has to do with a part of you that I'm in love with, Naruto said. Your H stands for heavenly. Naruto pulled away from her and kissed her right hand. Your I stands for intelligent. Naruto kissed her forehead, getting a blush out of her. Your N stands for nurturer. Kiss to her left hand. Your A stands for aspiring. Kiss to her neck, another blush. Your T stands for truthful. Kiss to her cheek. Naruto blushed himself for the final one. But the A, Naruto slowly leaned in before kissing her on the lips. The background burst into fireworks as the floating candles turned into bursting light that faded away soon after. Hinata was in an amazing amount of serenity and peace. Her body shook and she was trying not to black out like she was so accustomed to doing. Naruto finally pulled away from her lips, breathing slightly hard, just as she was. Suddenly, he smiled. Amazing. Naruto smiled before relishing in her touch, but he soon frowned. The decision he had made concerning Hinata might change things. He just hoped that she wouldn't change just because of what he had to say. Hinata, I have something to tell you, something that has come up in the time you've been gone. Hinata knew that it was serious judging by his tone, but at the moment, nothing could bring her down from the high she was feeling right now. Tsunade smiled at the sight of Naruto and Hinata hugging and talking. It took him long enough to smarten up. He had finally confessed how he felt, but how would she take the situation he was in? Tsunade just shook her head. It would only get worse as things kept coming up. Like the specific Nin requested for the mission she received this morning. Poor Naruto, said Shizune with a worried expression on her face. Tsunade smirked. If he's anything like his past sensei, it's more like lucky Naruto, said Tsunade as she played with the scroll with the kanji for